The chapel stood at the edge of the village like a forgotten promise. Its stones were old and cracked. Moss grew between the spaces where rain had worn the walls smooth. No one came here anymore. Not since the war. Not since the soldiers had turned churches into places of fear instead of hope. But every night, someone did come. Thorn heard her before he saw her. He had been hiding in the shadows near the broken fence when the voice reached him. Soft, low, like water moving over stones. It was a woman's voice. She was praying. He froze. Thorn did not believe in prayer. He did not believe in God or mercy or any of the things people whispered about in the dark. He believed in steel, in coin, in the weight of a sword in his hand. He had killed men. He had taken what he needed to survive, and he had never once felt the need to ask forgiveness. But this voice made him stop. It came from inside the chapel, through the broken window, through the cracks in the door. It drifted out into the cold night air like smoke, like something alive. Thorn moved closer. His boots made no sound on the grass. He had learned to walk quietly. It was how he stayed alive. He reached the side of the chapel and pressed his back against the stone wall. The voice grew clearer. For the men who have lost their way, for the women who weep in empty rooms, for the children who do not understand why the world is cruel. She was praying for strangers. Thorn frowned. He leaned forward and peered through the crack in the wooden door. Inside, the chapel was dark except for one candle. It sat on the altar. Its flame was small and weak, but it was enough to see her. She knelt in the center of the room. Her head was bowed. Her hands were folded in front of her. She wore a simple grey dress. Her hair was long and dark. It fell over her shoulders like a curtain. She did not move. She only spoke. For the man who hides in the shadows, for the one who thinks he is beyond saving, for the soul that has forgotten what it means to be loved. Thorn's chest tightened. She was praying for him. No, that was impossible. She did not know he was there. She could not know. He had been silent, still. She was praying for strangers, that was all. But something in her words felt like a hand reaching through the darkness, like fingers brushing against something inside him he thought had died years ago. He pulled back from the door. His breath came faster. His heart pounded in his chest. He turned and walked away from the chapel. Fast, too fast. He did not stop until he was back in the trees, back in the safety of the forest where no voice could follow. But even there, he heard her. For the one who runs, for the one who is afraid to stay. Thorn pressed his hand against a tree trunk. His fingers dug into the bark. He closed his eyes. He told himself it was nothing, just a woman, just words. They meant nothing. But he knew he was lying. Because for the first time in 10 years, Thorn wanted to go back. The next night he returned. He told himself it was curiosity. He told himself he needed to know who she was, why she came to a broken chapel in the middle of nowhere, why she prayed for people she had never met. But the truth was simpler. He wanted to hear her voice again. Thorn arrived earlier this time. The sun had just set. The sky was still streaked with red and gold. He moved through the village like a ghost. No one saw him. No one ever did. He was good at being invisible. The chapel looked the same, broken, forgotten. But as he approached, he saw her. She was standing outside. Thorn stopped. She stood near the door with her head tilted back. She was looking up at the sky. Her face was calm, peaceful. She did not smile, but there was something in her expression that made Thorn think of sunlight breaking through clouds. She was younger than he expected, maybe 25, maybe less. Her skin was pale, her eyes were dark. She looked tired, like someone who had not slept well in a long time. But she was beautiful. Thorn hated that he noticed. He stayed in the shadows and watched as she turned and opened the chapel door. She stepped inside. The door closed behind her. A moment later, the candlelight appeared. Thorn waited. He counted to 100. Then he moved to the door and looked through the crack. She was kneeling again, in the same place. Her hands were folded. Her head was bowed. And then she began to pray. For the man who watches but does not enter. For the one who listens but does not speak. For the heart that is afraid to hope. Thorn's breath caught. She knew. She knew he was there. His first instinct was to run, to disappear into the forest and never come back. But something held him in place. Something stronger than fear. Her voice. I do not know your name. I do not know your face. But I know you are lost. And I know you are searching. So I pray for you. I pray that you find what you are looking for, even if you do not yet know what it is. Thorn's hand moved to the door handle. He did not think. He did not plan. He just pushed the door open and stepped inside. The hinges creaked. The woman did not turn. She did not move. She only kept praying. And if you have come inside, I pray you feel welcome. I pray you feel safe. I pray you stay. Thorn stood just inside the doorway. His body was tense. His hand hovered near the knife at his belt. But the woman did not react. She did not look at him. She did not stop praying. Slowly, Thorn let his hand fall to his side. He took a step forward, then another. He moved quietly, carefully. He stopped a few feet behind her, and he listened. For the ones who have done terrible things, for the ones who carry shame like a stone in their chest, for the ones who believe they do not deserve forgiveness. Thorn's throat tightened. She prayed for another 10 minutes, maybe more. Thorn lost track of time. He only stood there and listened. And when she finally stopped, the silence felt heavy. The woman lowered her hands. She took a slow breath. Then she turned her head and looked at him. Her eyes were dark brown, calm, unafraid. You came, she said softly. Thorn did not answer. She rose to her feet and turned to face him fully. She was smaller than he expected, delicate, but there was strength in the way she stood, in the way she looked at him without flinching. I have been praying for you for 3 nights, she said. Thorn's jaw tightened. You do not know me. No, she agreed, but I know pain when I see it. Her words struck him like a blow. Thorn took a step back. You should not be here alone. Neither should you. They stood in silence. The candlelight flickered between them. Shadows danced on the walls. What is your name? She asked. Thorn hesitated. He had not said his real name in years. He had used false names, borrowed names, names that meant nothing. But something about her made him want to tell the truth. Thorn, he said quietly. She nodded. I am Serafina. The name fit her. It sounded like something fragile and strong at the same time. Why do you pray for strangers? Thorn asked. Serafina tilted her head. Because no one else does. That is not a reason. It is the only reason that matters. Thorn frowned. He did not understand her. He did not understand why she would waste her time praying for people who would never know, people who would never thank her. Do you think it works? He asked. Serafina smiled faintly. You are here, are you not? Thorn had no answer for that. He turned and walked toward the door. But before he left, he stopped and looked back at her. Will you be here tomorrow? He asked. Serafina's smile softened. Yes. Thorn nodded once. Then he stepped out into the night and disappeared. But something had changed, because for the first time in 10 years, Thorn had somewhere to go. Thorn returned the next night, and the night after that, and the night after that. At first he did not speak. He only stood in the shadows and listened while Serafina prayed. She never asked him to sit. She never asked him to join her. She only prayed. and he only listened. But slowly, something shifted. On the 5th night, Thorn stepped closer. On the 7th night, he sat on one of the broken pews near the back. On the 10th night, he spoke. "Why do you do this?" he asked. Serafina paused in her prayer. She looked at him. "Because I must." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I have." Thorn leaned forward. His elbows rested on his knees. His hands were clasped together. "You pray for people you will never meet. You pray for people who do not deserve it. What is the point?" Serafina stood and walked toward him. She moved slowly, carefully, like she was approaching a wounded animal. "Do you think people must deserve kindness before they receive it?" she asked. Thorn looked away. "Yes." "Then you have never understood mercy." Her words were soft, but they cut deep. Thorn clenched his jaw. "I have done things, terrible things, things that cannot be forgiven." "By who?" "By anyone." Serafina knelt in front of him. She looked up into his face. Her eyes were steady, unwavering. "Then let me ask you something," she said. "If you believe you are beyond forgiveness, why do you keep coming back?" Thorn did not answer, because he did not know. Serafina reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were warm, gentle. Thorn flinched, but he did not pull away. "You come back because you want to believe," she said softly. "You want to believe that you are more than the things you have done. You want to believe that there is something good left inside you." Thorn's chest ached. "And if there is not?" "Then I will keep praying until there is." Her voice was so certain, so steady. It made Thorn want to believe her. But belief was dangerous. Belief meant hope, and hope meant pain. Thorn had learned that lesson a long time ago. He pulled his hand away and stood. "You are wasting your time." Serafina rose to her feet. "That is not for you to decide." Thorn turned toward the door, but before he could leave, Serafina spoke again. "Thorn." He stopped. "Do you know what I pray for when I pray for you?" Thorn looked back at her. His expression was guarded. "What?" "I pray that you find peace, not because you deserve it, but because everyone deserves it." Thorn's throat tightened. He wanted to argue. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that some people were too broken to be fixed, that some sins were too heavy to be forgiven. But the words would not come. So instead, he left. But the next night, he came back. And the night after that. And the night after that. Each time, he stayed a little longer. Each time, he spoke a little more. And each time, Serafina prayed for him. Not with pity, not with judgment, just with that steady, unwavering voice that made him feel like maybe, just maybe, he was not as lost as he thought. On the 15th night, Thorn brought her something. It was a small loaf of bread. He had stolen it from a merchant's cart earlier that day. He did not tell her that. He just placed it on the altar and stepped back. Serafina looked at the bread. Then she looked at him. "Thank you," she said softly. Thorn shrugged. "You looked hungry." Serafina smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "I am," she admitted. She broke the bread in half and handed him a piece. Thorn hesitated. Then he took it. They sat together on the front pew and ate in silence. The candlelight flickered between them. The chapel was cold, but somehow it felt warm. When they finished, Serafina turned to him. "Will you tell me something?" she asked. "What?" "Why do you not believe?" Thorn looked down at his hands. They were scarred, rough. They were the hands of a killer. "Because I have seen what belief does to people," he said quietly. "I have seen priests bless soldiers before they burn villages. I have seen men pray for victory while they cut down women and children. I have seen people kneel before God and then stand and do the worst things imaginable. Serafina listened without interrupting. If God is real, Thorn continued, then he is cruel. And if he is not real, then all of this, he gestured around the chapel, is just empty words. Serafina was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What if it is neither?" Thorn frowned. "What do you mean? What if belief is not about God being cruel or kind? What if it is about what you choose to do with the world you are given?" Thorn shook his head. "That makes no sense." "Does it not?" Serafina turned to face him fully. "You have seen terrible things. You have done terrible things. But you are here. You could have stayed in the darkness. You could have kept running. But instead you came back. Why?" Thorn did not answer. "Because something inside you wants to be different," Serafina said. "That is belief, Thorn. Not in God, not in prayers, but in yourself. In the possibility that you can be more than what you were." Thorn stared at her. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever looked at him and seen something other than a weapon, a tool, a killer. But Serafina did. She saw him, and that terrified him. "I do not know how to be different," he said quietly. Serafina reached out and took his hand. This time, he did not pull away. "Then let me show you," she said. The next 2 weeks changed everything. Thorn began to help Serafina. At first it was small things. He fixed the broken door of the chapel. He cleared the weeds from the path. He brought her food when he could. But slowly, it became more. He started staying longer. He started talking more. And he started listening, not just to her prayers, but to her. Serafina told him about her life. She had grown up in the village. Her parents had died when she was young. She had no siblings, no family. She had lived alone for years. She worked as a seamstress during the day, and at night, she came to the chapel. "Why here?" Thorn asked one evening. They were sitting on the front pew. The candle burned low between them. Serafina looked around the chapel. "Because it is the only place that feels honest." Thorn frowned. "Honest?" "Yes." Serafina's voice was soft. "Out there, people pretend. They pretend to be strong, to be happy, to be whole. But here, in the dark, with no one watching, I can be myself. I can be broken. I can be afraid. And I can still ask for help." Thorn understood that. He had spent his whole life pretending to be cold, to be hard, to be unbreakable. But with Serafina, he did not have to pretend. "What are you afraid of?" he asked. Serafina looked at him. Her eyes were sad. "That I will die alone," she said quietly. "That no one will remember I existed. That my life will mean nothing." Thorn's chest tightened. "Your life means something," he said. "How do you know?" "Because it meant something to me." The words came out before he could stop them. Serafina's eyes widened. She stared at him, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Serafina smiled. It was a different smile than before, softer, sadder. "Thank you," she whispered. Thorn looked away. His heart was pounding. He did not know what he was feeling. He only knew it was dangerous, because he was starting to care. And caring meant weakness. But no matter how much he told himself to leave, he could not. One night, everything changed. Thorn arrived at the chapel earlier than usual. The sun had just set. The sky was still glowing orange and pink. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. Serafina was not praying. She was standing at the altar. Her back was to him. Her shoulders were shaking. Thorn froze. "Serafina?" She did not answer. Thorn walked toward her, slowly, carefully. He stopped a few feet behind her. "What is wrong?" he asked. Seraphina turned. Her face was wet with tears. Thorn's breath caught. He had never seen her cry. "Seraphina, I cannot do this any more," she said. Her voice was broken, raw. Thorn stepped closer. "Do what?" "This." She gestured around the chapel. "Praying for people who do not care, hoping for things that will never come, pretending that any of it matters." Thorn's chest ached. "It matters," he said. "Does it?" Seraphina's eyes were red, swollen. "I have been praying for years, Thorn, years, and nothing has changed. The world is still cruel, people are still broken, and I am still alone." "You are not alone." Seraphina laughed, but it was not a happy sound. It was bitter, hollow. "Am I not?" She looked at him. "You come here every night, but you do not believe. You do not pray. You do not even want to be here. You only come because you feel sorry for me." "That is not true." "Then why do you come?" Thorn opened his mouth, then closed it. Because he did not know how to answer. Or maybe he did, but he was too afraid to say it. Seraphina shook her head. "I thought I could save you. I thought if I prayed hard enough, if I believed strongly enough, you would start to believe too. But I was wrong. I cannot save you. I cannot even save myself." She turned away from him. Thorn's heart pounded. He had spent his entire life running from pain, from guilt, from himself. But in this moment, he knew that if he ran now, he would lose her. And losing her was not something he could survive. So instead, he did something he had never done before. He told the truth. "I come because of you," Thorn said. Seraphina stopped. "I do not come because I feel sorry for you," Thorn continued. His voice was low, rough. "I come because your voice is the only thing in this world that makes me feel like I am not a monster. I come because when you pray, I hear something I thought I had lost. I come because being near you makes me believe that maybe, just maybe, I am not as broken as I think." Seraphina turned slowly. Her eyes were wide, wet with tears. "I do not know how to pray," Thorn said. "I do not know how to believe. But I know this. You are not alone, and you will never be alone, because I am here, and I am not leaving." Seraphina stared at him. Then she crossed the space between them and threw her arms around him. Thorn froze. No one had hugged him in years. Slowly, carefully, he wrapped his arms around her. She was warm, soft, fragile, and for the first time in 10 years, Thorn felt like he was home. After that night, everything shifted. Thorn and Seraphina no longer kept their distance. They sat closer, they talked longer, and sometimes they did not talk at all. They just sat in the candlelight and existed together. But Thorn had a secret that made his chest ache every time he looked at her. Because Thorn was not just a wanderer. He was not just a man who had done terrible things. He was wanted. There was a price on his head, a large price, and there were men looking for him. Dangerous men. Men who would not stop until they found him. Thorn had planned to leave the village weeks ago. He had planned to disappear into the mountains and never look back. But then he met Seraphina, and now he could not leave. But he also could not stay, because if those men found him, they would find her too. And Thorn would rather die than let her get hurt because of him. So he made a decision. He would tell her the truth, and then he would leave. One night, after Seraphina finished praying, Thorn stood. "I need to tell you something," he said. Serafina looked at him. She tilted her head. "What is it?" Thorn took a breath. "I am not who you think I am." Serafina frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I am not just a man who has done terrible things. I am a criminal. There are people looking for me, and if they find me, they will kill me." Serafina's eyes widened. "What did you do?" she asked quietly. Thorn looked down at his hands. "I was a soldier. During the war, I followed orders. I did what I was told. But after the war ended, I could not stop. I became a mercenary. I killed for money. I killed because it was the only thing I knew how to do." Serafina was silent. "But then I killed the wrong man," Thorn continued. "A lord, a rich man. He had hired me to kill his rival. I did. But then he tried to have me killed so I could not talk. So I killed him too." Thorn's voice was flat, emotionless, but inside he felt like he was breaking. "I have been running ever since," he said. "And now his family has put a bounty on my head. A large bounty. There are men hunting me, and if they find me, they will not stop until I am dead." He looked up at Serafina. Her face was pale. Her eyes were wide. "I am sorry," Thorn said. "I should have told you sooner, but I was afraid. I was afraid you would look at me the way everyone else does, like I am a monster." Serafina did not speak. Thorn's chest ached. "I am leaving tonight," he said. "I cannot stay. If I stay, I put you in danger, and I will not do that." He turned toward the door, but before he could take a step, Serafina spoke. "Do you regret it?" Thorn stopped. "Do you regret the things you have done?" she asked. Thorn closed his eyes. "Every day." "Then you are not a monster." Thorn turned. Serafina stood. She walked toward him. Her eyes were steady, calm. "Monsters do not regret," she said. "Monsters do not feel guilt. Monsters do not come to broken chapels and listen to a woman pray. You are not a monster, Thorn. You are a man who made mistakes, and that is not the same thing." Thorn's throat tightened. "But I killed people," he said. "Yes, you did, and that was wrong. But it does not mean you cannot be more than that." Serafina reached out and took his hand. "You told me once that you did not know how to be different," she said. "But you are already different. You came back. You stayed. You cared. That is what matters." Thorn shook his head. "It is not enough." "It is enough for me." Thorn stared at her. "Do not leave," Serafina said softly. "Please, do not leave." Thorn wanted to stay. More than anything, he wanted to stay. But he could not. "If I stay, I will only bring you pain," he said. "Then let me decide if that is a risk I am willing to take." Thorn's heart pounded. He looked into Serafina's eyes, and in that moment, he realized something. He loved her. He did not know when it had happened. He did not know how, but it had. And that made everything worse. Because love meant vulnerability. Love meant weakness. Love meant that losing her would destroy him. But it also meant that leaving her would destroy him too. So Thorn made a choice. He stayed. The next few weeks were the happiest of Thorn's life. He and Serafina fell into a rhythm. During the day, Thorn stayed hidden in the forest. At night, he came to the chapel. And they talked. They laughed. They sat in the candlelight and existed together. But the danger was always there. Thorn knew the men were getting closer. He heard rumors in the village, whispers of strangers asking questions, of bounty hunters moving through the area. He told himself he would leave soon. He told himself he would disappear before they found him. But every night, when he looked at Serafina, he found another reason to stay. And that was his mistake. One night, Thorn arrived at the chapel and found the door open. His blood ran cold. He drew his knife and stepped inside. The chapel was empty. The candle was out. The altar was bare. And Seraphina was gone. Thorn's heart pounded. "Seraphina!" he called. No answer. He searched the chapel, the pews, the corners, the small room in the back where Seraphina kept supplies. Nothing. Panic clawed at his chest. He ran outside. He looked around. The village was dark, silent. Then he saw it. A piece of torn fabric. It was from Seraphina's dress. Thorn picked it up. His hands were shaking. Someone had taken her. And Thorn knew exactly who. He found them an hour later. They were camped in the forest. 3 men, rough, scarred, mercenaries. Thorn crouched in the shadows and watched. Seraphina was tied to a tree. Her hands were bound. Her mouth was gagged. Her face was bruised. Rage exploded in Thorn's chest. One of the men was standing near the fire. He was laughing. "We should have known he would be hiding near a woman," the man said. "Men like him always do." Another man spat. "The Lord's family will pay well for him, and if we bring the woman too, maybe they will pay even more." The third man grinned. "Or maybe we keep her for ourselves." Thorn's vision went red. He moved fast. He did not think. He did not plan. He just moved. The first man died before he even saw Thorn. Thorn's knife buried itself in his throat. The man fell. The second man spun. He reached for his sword. Thorn was faster. He drove his blade into the man's chest. The man gasped. Then he fell. The third man backed away. His eyes were wide. "Wait!" Thorn did not wait. He lunged. The man tried to run, but Thorn was on him in seconds. He grabbed the man by the throat and slammed him against a tree. "Please!" the man choked. Thorn's grip tightened. He could kill him. It would be easy. It would be quick. But then he heard a sound. A muffled cry. Thorn looked over. Seraphina was staring at him. Her eyes were wide, terrified. Not of the men, of him. Thorn's hand loosened. The man fell to the ground, coughing. Thorn stepped back. His hands were shaking. He had almost done it. He had almost become the monster again. The third man scrambled to his feet and ran into the darkness. Thorn let him go. He crossed to Seraphina and cut her bonds. He pulled the gag from her mouth. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Seraphina did not answer. She was staring at the bodies. Thorn's chest ached. "I am sorry," he said. "You killed them," Seraphina whispered. "They were going to hurt you." "You killed them," she repeated. Her voice was flat, hollow. Thorn reached for her, but she pulled away. "Seraphina, is this who you are?" she asked. Her eyes were wet with tears. "Is this what you do?" Thorn's throat tightened. "I did what I had to do," he said. "You could have stopped. You could have let them go." "They would have come back." "You do not know that." "Yes, I do." Seraphina shook her head. She stood. Her legs were unsteady, but she did not fall. "I thought you were different," she said quietly. "I thought you were changing, but you are not. You are still the same. You are still a killer." Her words cut deeper than any blade. Thorn stared at her. "They were going to hurt you," he said. "I was protecting you. By becoming the thing I prayed you would never be again?" Thorn had no answer. Seraphina turned and walked away. Thorn wanted to follow, but he could not move. Because she was right. He was still a killer. And maybe he always would be. Thorn did not go back to the chapel. He stayed in the forest, alone. He told himself it was better this way. He told himself Seraphina was safer without him. But the truth was, he could not face her. because she had looked at him like he was a monster. And maybe he was. Days passed, then a week. Thorn survived. He hunted. He moved from place to place. He avoided the village. But every night he thought about her. He thought about her voice, her prayers, her eyes. He thought about the way she had looked at him in the forest. And it broke him. Then, one night he heard a voice. It came from the direction of the chapel. Thorn froze. It was Seraphina. She was praying. Thorn's chest tightened. He should not go. He should stay away. But his feet moved on their own. He walked through the trees, through the darkness, until he stood outside the chapel. The door was open. Inside, the candle burned, and Seraphina knelt. Thorn stepped inside. Seraphina stopped praying. She turned. Her eyes met his. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Seraphina said, "You came back." Thorn's throat was tight. "I should not have." "Why did you?" "Because I cannot stay away." Seraphina stood. She walked toward him. Her steps were slow, careful. "I was wrong," she said quietly. Thorn frowned. "What?" "I was wrong. That night, in the forest, I was scared, and I said things I should not have said." Thorn shook his head. "You were right. I am still a killer. I always will be." "No," Seraphina stopped in front of him. "You are not. You are a man who did what he had to do to protect someone he cared about. That is not the same as being a killer." It felt the same. But it was not. Seraphina reached up and touched his face. Her hand was warm, gentle. "You could have let that man die," she said. "But you did not. You stopped. Because of me. That is who you are, Thorn. Not the man who killed, but the man who chose to stop." Thorn's eyes burned. "I do not know how to be good," he said. "Then let me help you." Seraphina leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his chest. Thorn's arms came up, slowly, carefully. He wrapped them around her, and for the first time in his life, he let himself break. He did not cry. He did not make a sound, but something inside him cracked open. Something hard and cold and sharp. And in its place, something warm began to grow. They stayed like that for a long time. When they finally pulled apart, Seraphina looked up at him. "Will you stay?" she asked. Thorn hesitated. "The men will come back, more of them, and they will not stop until they find me. Then we will face them together." "I cannot ask you to do that." "You are not asking. I am choosing." Thorn stared at her. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you do that?" Seraphina smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. "Because you are worth saving," she said, "even if you do not believe it yet." Thorn's chest ached. "I do not deserve you," he said. "No one deserves anyone. We just choose to love them anyway." And then she kissed him. It was soft, gentle, like a prayer. Thorn's heart stopped. Then it started again, faster, harder. He kissed her back, and in that moment, he knew. He would do anything for her, even if it meant facing his past, even if it meant dying. The men came a week later. There were 6 of them this time, all armed, all dangerous. They arrived at dawn. Thorn saw them from the edge of the forest. He had been expecting them. He had been preparing. He walked back to the chapel. Seraphina was inside. She was praying. Thorn stopped in the doorway. "They are here," he said. Seraphina looked up. Her face was calm. "I know," she said. Thorn frowned. "You know?" "I saw them, this morning, in the village." "Then why are you still here?" "Because I am not leaving you." Thorn crossed the room in 3 strides. He knelt in front of her. "You have to go," he said. "Now, before they find you." "No." "Serafina, no!" Her voice was firm. "I am staying, and you cannot make me leave." Thorn's chest tightened. "If you stay, they will kill you," he said. "Then they will kill us both." Thorn shook his head. "I will not let that happen." "Then fight." Thorn stared at her. "Fight," Serafina repeated. "Not because you are a killer, but because you are protecting something worth protecting. Fight because you have something to live for." Thorn's throat burned. "What if I lose?" he asked. "Then I will pray for you." Thorn almost smiled. "Your prayers do not work," he said. Serafina touched his face. "They brought you here, did they not?" Thorn had no answer for that. He stood. He took a breath. Then he walked to the door. "Stay inside," he said. "No matter what happens, do not come out." Serafina nodded. Thorn stepped outside. The men were waiting. They stood in a line, 6 of them, all armed with swords, axes, crossbows. The leader stepped forward. He was tall, broad. His face was scarred. "Thorn," the man said, "we have been looking for you." Thorn said nothing. "The Lord's family is offering a lot of money for you," the man continued. "Dead or alive. We prefer alive, but we will settle for dead." Thorn drew his sword. The man grinned. "You think you can take all 6 of us?" "No," Thorn said, "but I will try." The man laughed. "You always were stubborn." He raised his hand. The other men moved forward. Thorn did not wait. He lunged. The first man swung his sword. Thorn blocked. He twisted. He drove his blade into the man's side. The man fell. The second man came from the left. Thorn spun. He parried. He kicked. The man stumbled. Thorn's sword found his throat. 2 down, 4 left. The third and fourth men attacked together. Thorn blocked one, dodged the other. His blade flashed. 1 man fell, then the other. 4 down, 2 left. Thorn was breathing hard. Blood dripped from a cut on his arm, another on his leg, but he was still standing. The leader stepped forward. He drew his sword. "Impressive," he said, "but not enough." He lunged. Thorn blocked. Their swords clashed. Again, again, again. The leader was strong, fast, skilled. Thorn was tired. His arms ached. His legs shook. Blood loss was slowing him down. But he did not stop. He thought of Serafina, her voice, her prayers, her faith, and he fought. Inside the chapel, Serafina prayed. She heard the sounds outside, the clash of steel, the cries of pain. She did not stop praying. "Please," she whispered, "please let him live. Please let him survive. Please let him come back to me." She prayed with everything she had. Outside, Thorn was losing. The leader's sword cut across his chest. Thorn gasped. He stumbled. The leader grinned. "It is over." He raised his sword. Thorn closed his eyes. He thought of Serafina. And then he heard it. Her voice, soft, distant, but clear. "Please, let him live." Thorn's eyes snapped open. He rolled. The sword missed him by inches. Thorn surged to his feet. He swung his blade. The leader blocked. But Thorn was faster this time. He twisted. He struck. His sword drove through the leader's chest. The man's eyes went wide. Then he fell. Thorn dropped to his knees. His chest heaved. Blood poured from his wounds. but he was alive. The door to the chapel burst open. Seraphina ran out. She saw the bodies, the blood, and Thorn kneeling in the dirt. "Thorn!" She ran to him. She dropped to her knees. She grabbed his face. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Her voice was frantic. "Where are you hurt?" Thorn looked at her, and he smiled. "I am alive," he said. Seraphina's eyes filled with tears. "You are alive. Because of you." Seraphina shook her head. "No, you survived because you chose to. You fought because you wanted to live." Thorn reached up and touched her face. "I fought because I wanted to come back to you," he said. Seraphina kissed him, and for the first time Thorn believed, not in God, not in prayer, but in love. The village healer stitched Thorn's wounds. It took hours. Seraphina stayed by his side the entire time. When it was done, the healer looked at Thorn. "You are lucky to be alive," she said. Thorn nodded. "I know." The healer left. Thorn and Seraphina sat in silence. Then Seraphina said, "What will you do now?" Thorn looked at her. "What do you mean?" "The men are dead, but there will be others. The Lord's family will not stop. They will keep sending people, and eventually they will find you." Thorn knew she was right. "I will leave," he said. "I will go far away, somewhere they cannot find me." Seraphina's face fell. "And what about me?" Thorn's chest ached. "You will stay here," he said, "where you are safe." "I do not want to be safe. I want to be with you." "It is too dangerous." "I do not care." Thorn shook his head. "I will not put you in danger again." Seraphina stood. Her eyes were blazing. "You do not get to decide that for me," she said. "I am not a child. I am not helpless. I am choosing to be with you, and if that means danger, then so be it." Thorn stared at her. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you risk everything for me?" "Because I love you." The words hung in the air. Thorn's breath caught. "You love me," he repeated. "Yes. But I am... You are the man who came back, the man who fought, the man who chose to live. That is who you are, and that is who I love." Thorn stood. He crossed to her, and he kissed her. It was not soft. It was not gentle. It was desperate, hungry, like he was trying to pour everything he felt into that one kiss. When they pulled apart, Thorn rested his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he said. Seraphina smiled. "Then we leave together," she said. Thorn hesitated. Then he nodded. "Together," he agreed. But that night, something changed. Thorn woke to the sound of voices. He sat up. Seraphina was gone. Panic clawed at his chest. He grabbed his sword and ran outside. The chapel was surrounded. There were at least 20 men, maybe more, all armed, all waiting. And in the center of them stood Seraphina. She was not tied. She was not hurt. She was just standing there. Thorn's blood ran cold. "Seraphina!" he shouted. She turned. Her face was calm. "I am sorry, Thorn," she said. Thorn frowned. "What?" One of the men stepped forward. He was old, gray-haired, well-dressed. "You must be Thorn," the man said. Thorn's grip tightened on his sword. "Who are you?" "I am Lord Castor, the father of the man you killed." Thorn's heart sank. "I have been looking for you for a long time," Lord Castor continued. "And then this woman came to me. She told me where you were. She told me everything." Thorn looked at Seraphina. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Why?" he asked. Seraphina's voice broke. Because they promised me they would spare you. They promised me that if I helped them, they would let you live. Thorn's chest shattered. You betrayed me, he said. I saved you. No. Thorn's voice was raw. You destroyed me. Lord Castor laughed. How touching. But I am afraid I lied. Seraphina spun. What? I promised you I would spare him, but I never said for how long. Lord Castor raised his hand. The men moved forward. Seraphina screamed. No! You promised! But it was too late. The men grabbed Thorn. He fought. He struggled. But there were too many. They dragged him to his knees. Lord Castor walked forward. He drew a dagger. Any last words? He asked. Thorn looked at Seraphina. She was sobbing. Her hands were covering her mouth. I forgive you, Thorn said. Seraphina's eyes widened. I forgive you, Thorn repeated. Because I understand. You did what you thought was right. And I love you. Even now. Seraphina collapsed. Lord Castor raised the dagger. And then something happened. A voice rang out. Stop! Everyone turned. A man on horseback rode into the clearing. He was young, well-dressed. He carried the seal of the king. Lord Castor frowned. Who are you? I am Lord Castor's nephew, the man said, and I am here to stop this madness. Lord Castor's face went pale. What are you talking about? The young man dismounted. He held up a scroll. This is a royal pardon, he said, signed by the king himself. It absolves Thorn of all crimes, including the death of your son. Lord Castor's eyes widened. That is impossible. It is not. Your son was a traitor. He was planning to overthrow the king. Thorn killed him before he could. The king is grateful, and he has granted Thorn his freedom. Lord Castor staggered. The men released Thorn. Thorn stood. His legs were shaking. The young man walked over to him. You are free, he said. Go. Live your life. Thorn looked at Seraphina. She was staring at him. Her face was wet with tears. Thorn, she whispered. Thorn turned and walked away. Thorn did not go far. He stayed in the forest, near the chapel, but he did not go inside. He could not. Every time he thought about Seraphina, his chest ached. She had betrayed him, but she had also tried to save him, and he did not know which truth was stronger. Days passed, then a week. One night, Thorn heard footsteps. He looked up. Seraphina stood at the edge of the clearing. She looked thin, tired. Her eyes were red. May I sit? She asked. Thorn said nothing. Seraphina sat anyway. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Seraphina said, I am sorry. Thorn did not answer. I thought I was saving you, she continued. I thought if I gave them what they wanted, they would let you live. I was a fool. Yes, Thorn said. You were. Seraphina flinched. But, Thorn continued, I understand. Seraphina looked at him. Her eyes were wide. You were afraid, Thorn said. You were afraid of losing me. And you did the only thing you thought you could do. It was wrong, but it came from love, and I cannot hate you for that. Seraphina's eyes filled with tears. Do you forgive me? She asked. Thorn looked at her. I already did, he said. Seraphina's face crumpled. She moved closer. She reached for his hand. Thorn let her take it. I do not deserve you, she whispered. No one deserves anyone. We just choose to love them anyway. Seraphina laughed. It was a wet, broken sound. You are quoting me, she said. You are the one who taught me. Serafina looked up at him. "Will you come back?" she asked. "To the chapel. To me." Thorn hesitated. Then he nodded. "Yes," he said. "I will come back." Thorn returned to the chapel that night. Serafina was already there. She was kneeling, praying. Thorn stood in the doorway and listened. "For the man who forgave me when I did not deserve it. For the man who chose love over hate. For the man who is still learning to believe." Thorn's chest tightened. He stepped inside. Serafina stopped praying. She turned. Their eyes met. "Will you pray with me?" she asked. Thorn hesitated. Then he nodded. He crossed the room and knelt beside her. Serafina smiled. "You do not have to say anything," she said. "Just listen." Thorn nodded. Serafina bowed her head. And she prayed. Thorn listened. And for the first time, he understood. It was not about God. It was not about heaven or hell or salvation. It was about hope. Hope that tomorrow could be better than today. Hope that broken things could be fixed. Hope that love was stronger than fear. And Thorn realized something. He believed. Not because of miracles, not because of signs, but because of Serafina. Because her voice had reached into the darkness and pulled him out. Because her prayers had saved him. When Serafina finished, she looked at him. "Do you want to try?" she asked. Thorn took a breath. Then he spoke. "I do not know how to do this," he said. "I do not know the words, but I am grateful. I am grateful that I am alive. I am grateful that I found you, and I am grateful that I get to stay." His voice was rough, uncertain, but it was real. Serafina reached out and took his hand. "That was perfect," she said. Thorn looked at her. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." They sat in the candlelight, hand in hand. And for the first time in his life, Thorn felt at peace. Months passed. Thorn and Serafina stayed in the village. They rebuilt the chapel together. They fixed the roof, the walls, the door. People began to come. At first, it was just one or two, then more, then dozens. They came to hear Serafina pray. They came to find hope. And they came because they heard that even the most broken man had found redemption there. Thorn helped where he could. He greeted people. He carried wood. He listened. And sometimes when Serafina prayed, he prayed too. It was never long, never eloquent, just simple words, but they were enough. One night after everyone had gone, Thorn and Serafina sat together on the front pew. "Do you remember the first time you came here?" Serafina asked. Thorn smiled. "How could I forget? You were so angry, so lost." "I was." "And now?" Thorn looked at her. "Now I am found," he said. Serafina leaned her head against his shoulder. "What changed?" she asked. Thorn thought for a moment. "Your voice," he said. "I heard your voice, and I started to believe that maybe I was worth saving, that maybe I could be more than what I was." Serafina smiled. "You were always worth saving," she said. "You just needed someone to remind you." Thorn kissed the top of her head. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up on me. Thank you for coming back." They sat in silence. The candle flickered. Outside, the world was dark. But inside, there was light. Years later, people would tell the story of the chapel. They would talk about the woman who prayed for strangers, and the man who had been a killer but became something more. They would say it was a miracle. But Thorn knew the truth. It was not a miracle. It was love. Love that refused to give up. Love that saw the broken pieces and chose to stay. Love that whispered hope into the darkness until the darkness finally broke. And it all started with a voice. a voice that prayed, a voice that believed, a voice that saved him. Thorn never forgot that. Even in his final days, when he was old and gray, he would return to the chapel. He would kneel beside Seraphina, and he would pray. Not because he was holy, not because he was perfect, but because he had learned that belief was not about being worthy. It was about being willing. Willing to hope, willing to love, willing to believe that even the most broken soul could be made whole. And Thorn believed, because Seraphina had taught him how. She had whispered prayers for strangers, and he had started believing because of her voice.